Berlin.
I'm Jacqueline Novak.
We're comedians, best friends, and consumerist hogs hemorrhaging cash in the wellness world.
That's why we made a podcast,
Poog,
with the Big Money Players Network and iHeartRadio.
Though we suffer from no ailments, we are looking to heal.
For us, salvation lies in the next product, practice, or potion.
This is our hobby.
This is our hell.
This is our naked desire for free products. This is Poog. That's P-O-O-G. Poog on the iHeartRadio app,
Apple Podcasts,
or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know exactly where you were when the Golden State Killer was arrested. You're a moderator on the Zodiac Killer subreddit. You're in search of a new challenge. Enter Solve, the hit podcast that puts you at the center of the investigation. Solve is like no other murder mystery podcast. You'll piece together evidence to track down killers hiding in plain sight. Your cases are waiting for you. New episodes of Solve are available now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. One crime, 4 suspects. Can you solve it?
Thanks for listening to The Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for The Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Here we go on a Monday full of stuff, live in Los Angeles. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we're on Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, and FS1. 1 hour from now, where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong, plenty of both. Joy Taylor is joining me. Vibrant today, dynamic. 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. Good week of Blazing 5. Feeling in a very robust mood today.
2 Monday Night Football games tonight.
Yeah.
A Tuesday Night Football game tomorrow. A
And a Thursday night football game. Who's on the Thursday night game, Goulet?
It is
Rams Patriots.
Rams Patriots.
Wow, what a week.
Yeah, big fight this weekend.
Wow.
Big fight news they were just talking about, which we'll get to later.
Well, let's start with this. 2020's been a heck of a year, right? And I get in discussions with my kids all the time. I said, listen, it's given us a recession. It's given us a pandemic. This has been a rough year. But yet, in this rough year, many people, companies, families have actually flourished. Oh, they have. Everybody, when you don't have any speed bumps and curves in your life, it's much easier. But can you adapt to trouble? Adapt to a life that's different? I saw something yesterday that was, I'm going to lead my show with it. The Patriots beat the Chargers 45-0. It was not a good game to watch, but I'm going to lead with it. So, 45-0. Does the talent between the Patriots and Chargers say 45-0? No. That's like Alabama against the Sun Belt Conference team. The Kansas City Chiefs would not beat the Jets 45-0. Let's just marvel at Bill Belichick, what he has done in 2020. The best quarterback ever leaves. 8 players opt out for COVID. He loses a top assistant. They have multiple defensive starters leave for free agency. He has no stars at wide receiver or tight end. Cam Newton appears to be shot, and they have to completely change their offensive game to a power running game. Oh, wait, there's no preseason. And this morning they're 6-6 and 2 plays away from being 8-4. If Cam doesn't get stopped at the goal line against Seattle, and it was really close, and if they don't fumble against Buffalo, they're 8-4. How in the hell is that possible? Cam Newton yesterday threw for 69 yards. And they won 45-0. Okay, if you'd have told me, so Cam Newton threw for 69 yards and the Patriots beat the Chargers, I'd be like 9-6, 17-14. No, it was 45-0. Could any other coach win games with what he's been handed with? Philadelphia lost a coordinator, a play caller, Frank Reich. They're a disaster. Atlanta lost Kyle Shanahan. They're a dumpster fire on half the Sundays. Does everybody understand what you're watching here? You can really judge somebody by what happens when things go south and how you adjust. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in 14 years. He almost made the playoffs with a quarterback named Duck. He's had drama. He's had injuries. He's had AB. He's had Le'Veon Bell out. Big Ben got hurt. 14 years, never had a losing team in Pittsburgh. That's a coach. Sean Payton, back-to-back years, lost a Hall of Famer. Drew Brees, how'd he do? 8-0 with like 5 blowouts. What? Yeah, Taysom Hill, the Tebow guy? Yeah, he can throw now. What? I mean, now, there are a handful of coaches in this league that have completely separated. Think about this. In the last 2 years, Belichick has lost Brian Flores, who appears to be great, and Joe Judge, and I was wrong on this, wow, can that dude coach? He lost both off his staff, and they're a play from being 7-5. I mean, my eyes tell me Cam is kind of shot. But yet he has 5 touchdowns and 9 picks. He's got more wins starting this year, 6. He has touchdown passes. They have nobody to throw to. And they won 45-0. Belichick took a guy yesterday named Gunnar Olszewski and got him 2 touchdowns. He sounds like a 1968 hockey player with no teeth. Gunnar Olszewski, the pride of Bemidji State. Don't even know what state it's in. Marvel at it. Because you can say Anthony Lynn can't coach. He got a team to a playoff a couple years ago. 45-0 with a quarterback that threw for 69 yards. They so dominated the Chargers coaching staff, it was over 7 minutes in. I mean, that 45-0 is Bama over a Sun Belt Conference team. That's not even Chiefs over the Jets' backup quarterback. That game would be somewhat competitive for a quarter. I mean, it is a marvel what we're watching. And again, nothing went his way. I mean, of all the years you'd have to completely change your offense from Tom Brady to Cam, they got it in a year in a pandemic and no preseason. Look at them now. It's incredible. All right, let's talk Baker Mayfield. Why don't we? Oh, Colin, how did you not lead with this? So I'm going to give Cleveland a pass. So Cleveland got a huge lead. But in the second half, Cleveland was outscored 28-3. I'm going to give them a complete pass on this. Why? Because Cleveland led 38-7 at half. Cleveland doesn't lead anybody 38-7. Cleveland went into halftime. They went into the locker room. And the coach is like, guys, it's 38-7. And they're all like, we lead? They didn't know what to do in the second half because they'd never been there. I'm going to give Cleveland a total. New England, Kansas City, good Steelers go in big at half. They kind of know what to do. I'm going to give Cleveland a pass. They didn't know what to do. They've never been there before. And I got to say this, biggest win in Baker Mayfield's career, that goes without saying. But I want to say this, and let's add context. When you have the number 1 quarterback on a rookie contract, you should be winning. Russell Wilson got to 2 Super Bowls. Goff got to 1. Mahomes got to 1. Flacco and Cam got to 1. Because when you have a rookie, a top young quarterback, you're not paying him anything for 3 to 4 years. So you can go get free agents. What did the Browns did? They went and got a right tackle, Jack Conklin, elite right tackle. They couldn't afford that if they're paying Baker 30. They want to get Jarvis Landry's expensive. Austin Hooper. So this is what the Rams did with Goff. It's what the Chiefs can do with Mahomes before the contract. It's what you can do. If you've got a quarterback, you can load up. Right now, the Browns' offensive line, now this was before the game, was rated as a top 2 pass blocking line and a top 2 run blocking line. You can do that when you're not paying the quarterback anything. But the question has always been, we know Goff is mature, he's real quiet, we know Mahomes is, we know Russell is. Look, we know those guys are mature. The question is, when you have that young quarterback, and he gets all that talent, he'll never have that much talent offensively the rest of his career because they're paying Baker nothing, and Goff was getting paid nothing, and Mahomes getting paid nothing, and Russell nothing. Can you steer the ship? We know you're not experienced. We know you're young. We know you'll make mistakes, but are you mature enough and steady enough to just kind of move the luxury liner down the river? And I never thought Baker was. I mean, I picked the Browns to make the playoffs, but I never thought I'd see yesterday. That's what Goff looked like. First couple years, they'd have these games where like, Mahomes got a lot of weapons. Mahomes got a lot of weapons. Mahomes is not going to have this many weapons in 2 years. He's not. They're not going to be able to keep everybody. You can't pay your quarterback $45 million. So this was a really nice moment for Baker. We've always known the ups and downs of Baker. But these are the moments when you get that franchise quarterback and you can go big into free agency at tight end and wide receiver and right tackle, and you can really spend some money on it. Is he just stable and mature enough to guide all this talent down the river, just guided to wins. And yesterday was the first time I watched Baker, and I thought, oh, he could win a playoff game. Baker could win a playoff game. It's been rocky to get there. A lot of stuff I didn't like. First time I watched him, I thought Baker Mayfield could win a playoff game. And I'm going to give him a pass for the second half because they've never led anybody 38-7 at half, and they didn't know what the hell to do. They had no idea what to do. Do we just run it? Do we pretend like we're in a close game? But that was impressive, and Baker Mayfield talked after.
What's different about you now as opposed to a month ago, last year, whatever? Is it something looks different? What's different?
Whenever I'm about to do something, I think, would an idiot do that? And if they would, then I don't do that.
Good answer from the office. Now, what is the next step? And this is going to be even harder for Baker and Cleveland. Because, they're feeling themselves today. Next month, you play Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and the Giants. Those defenses are good. And you can't shoot any more TV commercials. Can't go out late at night. Gotta wear a mask. Gotta be smart. Can't be cocky. Baker proved I can go on the road and win a big game. I can guide this ship like Goff did, Mahomes did, Russell Wilson did. But the difference, because of those three players' temperaments, that win wouldn't unravel them. Trent Dilfer has a great saying. He goes, you gotta learn how to win in this league. Everybody loses the same. They're pissed, and they work really hard. He goes, not everybody wins the same in this league. Some guys win, they buy a new this, they buy a new that, they shoot a new commercial. So step one's been accomplished. You can win a playoff game with Baker. Step two is, let's work twice as hard for Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and the Giants. Because those are way better defenses than the Titans. That's the next step. That's what Mahomes did. That's what Goff did. That's what Russell Wilson did. Oh, win. Impressive. And Baker deserves credit for that. But they went to bed early, studied twice as hard, were great the next week. Did Baker do that? We'll see. Hopeful. Not rooting against them. Don't root against good quarterbacks. I never root against young quarterbacks. This league is awful with bad quarterback play. I've said before, I watched Baker a ton the first 2 years. When he started going downhill, I stopped watching and stopped talking about him. He wasn't as interesting. He just wasn't as good. If this is what I get from Baker, interesting, good, can win playoff games. Now let's just do it again and again and again and again. Because now, this is the second stage of it. You won, you shut people up, now work twice as hard this week. All right, coming up next, what to make of the Giants with a backup quarterback beating Seattle? What does it say? And we'll talk about that coming up.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
At the right time, the right story can work magic. And right now, we could all use a boost. I'm actor Anupam Kher, and on my new podcast, Anupam Cares, I will share stories with you from my life, from growing up in the Himalayan foothills to acting in over 500 Bollywood films. I will also be bringing you stories of untold heroes from around the world to lift our spirits and remind us that anything can happen. Find Anupam Cares on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In the summer and autumn of 2020, the city of Portland, Oregon became the center of a vast media blitz. Thousands of viral videos showing marching federal agents and police officers, tear gas, black-clad anarchists and fires went viral all over the internet. What didn't go viral was the truth, because the story of Portland's Black Lives Matter movement and of the Portland protests of 2020 is so much stranger than I think the mainstream media would ever be willing to cover. I was there, and more importantly, the people that I talked to for my new show, Uprising, a guide from Portland, were there. Through their experiences, you'll learn the truth, both about Portland and about what's coming for the rest of the United States in the next few years. Listen to Uprising, a guide from Portland, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Starting in 2021, a new streaming company we call Discovery Plus. Discovery Plus, new streaming service. Old shows, Food Network, HGTV will be on it, plus some exclusive originals, US only, Discovery Plus. So, yesterday, the Seahawks lost at home to the Giants 17-12, and the Giants were playing a backup quarterback, Colt McCoy. And on the interweb, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, biggest upset of the year. Oh, it's the biggest upset of the year. That is an unbelievable upset." And I'll say I would caution you to that, because one of the things I like about the NFL over college football is Sundays are crazy all the time. The Steelers, and I was around to watch it, dominated the 70s, a true dynasty. The 49ers dominated the 80s, a true dynasty. And they got upset all the time. New England, the year they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, were destroyed by Matt Patricia and the Lions in the same year. I don't think this was as big an upset as we think. The Giants have been in 8 straight close games. They've won 5 of 7. They're going to win their division and host a playoff game. And defensively, their defensive line is excellent, and Seattle's primary weakness is their offensive line. Now, it's an upset. But if you've been and I've been on this now for 2 months. When they were 1-7, I said, they remind me of Miami. And this is counterintuitive to what we think, but at the end of last year, Joy and I both said this. The Dolphins were better than New England. In the last 9 games, they were a better football team. And it's counterintuitive for a lot of you, because this team started, the Giants started 0-5. They are a better football team than many of the teams that will make the playoffs. But this is more important to me. As a talk show host, and you never see political talk show hosts do this, that's why I just don't listen to most of them. As a sports talk show host, I think it's my responsibility to admit when I am wrong. It gives me credibility, because nobody's right all the time in politics or sports. I thought Dave Gettleman, the GM of the Giants, was a goofball. I thought he was horrible in front of the microphone. I thought he was goofy. I thought he was completely out of his element. He did 3 things I didn't like any of them. He hired Joe Judge. I'm like, what? He drafted Daniel Jones, 6th, and he traded OBJ. He was right on all of them. And by the way, I did like his Leonard Williams trade from the Jets. That I liked. But to show you the power of the Giants' culture, because Leonard Williams didn't suddenly get way better. Leonard Williams has more sacks this year for the Giants than he did 3 years for the Jets. That is about coaching and culture. And I got to be honest about it. I just didn't like the Daniel Jones draft. I didn't get the Joe Judge hire. There was a lot better coaches I thought, more experienced. And the OBJ trade, I understood the criticism. But yesterday was just a great defensive team facing a Seahawk team with a bad O-line. It's now the Seahawks' primary weakness. Russell Wilson wasn't terrible, but he was sacked 5 times under duress. And this is a well-coached team. We spend a lot of time on this show criticizing winners that lose. Sometimes we have to give credit that losers that win. And this Giants team isn't a great team with a great record. But they won that game. They were clearly, all day, 3.5 hours, the better team. There was never a moment in that game Seattle, I felt, was a better team on that Sunday. It was like, oh, Giants just, their defensive line is controlling Seattle's offensive line, therefore, they're controlling the football game. And I got to admit when I was wrong, the Giants are formidable. Their GM, by the way, Gettleman, I thought had a very, very good draft as well. And I said that after the draft. I'm like, this is a pretty good draft. And I don't think this is all about the upset. I really don't. I think we're going to look back at this in 6 weeks if the Giants win a playoff game and go, that wasn't that big of an upset. You know, when Miami beat New England last year at the end, woo, what an upset. This morning you're like, not much of an upset. Miami's good, and New England's okay. Joy with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Joy, look at this. Best winning percentage since Week 6 in the NFL. Chiefs, Saints, Steelers, Dolphins, Giants. So since Week 6, it's like a really good football team.
No, we've been talking about the Giants for a while now, really all season. They are the Dolphins of last year.
Yeah, they're an off season away from a little more dynamic offensive personnel. Daniel Jones gets healthy from being like, oh, watch out for the Giants.
And think they're doing all of this in a COVID year.
Yeah.
It's very impressive. Well, congratulations to the other New York team. The tank is still on.
Oh, my God.
The Jets were so close. They were so close to messing it all up. But at the end of the day, they're the Jets. So they did it. They were on the verge of their first win of the season, showing the video. Now, Derek Carr threw, which the Raiders are a whole other conversation, because you can be excited that you got the win, but...
Yeah, yikes.
So he threw a 46-yard touchdown pass to Henry Ruggs to take the lead with only 5 seconds remaining. Curiously, on that final play, defensive coordinator Greg Williams called for a cover zero blitz that sent 8 rushers at the
no
quarterback
safety.
and 3 defenders in man-to-man coverage. No safety. The only way they win this game is exactly how they won this game. So you would think you would drop a few defenders back, considering that the blitz would not really be that helpful. Well, he received a lot of criticism for that decision, and he is no longer with the Jets. He was reportedly fired this morning.
Should be.
Adam Schefter tweeted that. Yes, I mean it seems a bit reactionary, considering that I'm imagining most of that staff will not be there next year.
But you know what? That's okay. Listen, there are moments you cross a threshold that is not tolerable.
Yeah.
And this was a threshold that was not. I'm not a big fan of firing in season, but there are thresholds you're like, okay, you embarrassed us. You know, all I could think about, this is the way my goofy mind works, all I could think about is that went from a miserable 5-hour flight to Vegas to one of the best flights home of the year for the Raiders. That went from 5 hours, nobody talks on the plane, to, oh my God, we played like crap, stole it, and everybody's drinking Modelo's on the way
I
home.
don't know if you're celebrating if you're the Raiders, because you've not looked great the past couple weeks, but I do, a win is a win.
It's a win.
I thought that was a hideous win by Miami yesterday, for example. This was a hideous win from the Raiders.
Yeah.
You are just how it's a great win for Baker and the Browns. Don't get too high. You have to come back and work just as hard next week. This was a bad day for the Jets. Well, I guess it's a good day for Jets fans.
Right.
But I'm a little conspiracy theory with this too, though.
Yeah. So a lot of people are.
You're like, they kind of called that so that they could lose, and then you fired
I know.
Greg
I saw a
Williams.
lot of that. Yeah. I'm not going to go there, but it does almost smell too perfect to be true.
It does smell perfect.
Yeah.
Which generally means that it's not.
Right.
So the Chiefs clinched their spot in the playoffs with a 22-16 win over the Broncos last night. That was another game that didn't go the way that we all expected it to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, again, ugly. This is the Sunday at cold weather. Some good teams have ugly games.
It's that time of year. Kansas City's offense struggled to get in the end zone, scored only 1 touchdown, but paired that with 5 field goals to get the win, so a kicking night. This will be the Chiefs' 6th straight trip to the playoffs, which is the longest streak in team history, and they can clinch their 5th straight AFC West title with a win next week over Miami. Very strange game for the Chiefs last night. Kelsey had a great day, 8 receptions, 136 yards, and a touchdown. He became the first tight end in NFL history to post 5 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons.
He is the best tight end in the game. Kittle would be, but he's hurt too often. Kelsey is He is this generation. He is Gronk, but more vertical. He's a great Hall of Fame player.
He is separated from the rest of the league.
He's really unique. He is a great all-time football player.
That was a really strange scenario with the Tyreek Hill touchdown, though.
You know, it's funny on the sideline. He told Andy, he's like, I didn't see it. I mean,
how could he tell? I mean, of course he thought he dropped it.
Well, and you have pads on, so it's not touching body. In football, you got pads on, it's laying on your arm.
Yeah.
Somebody's laying
it's
on
not
you.
like he had it in his hands the whole time so he could know that he caught it.
Yes.
I was so weird that they just rushed to get the kickoff. I don't know.
You would think somebody in the press box would scream, Andy.
But it was so quick.
I know.
Even us, even the broadcast was like, oh, wait a minute. Slow down. Give it a second. Give it a beat. It would have really changed the game. But the Broncos, on the other hand, are 4-8 and currently have the 10th pick in the draft. I mean, it was an ugly game. They uglied it up for the Chiefs last night in division, but the Broncos are going to have to make some changes next year. So, Carson Wentz was benched in the second half.
Yes, he was.
For Jalen Hurts yesterday, and despite the 30-16 loss to the Packers, Hurts did provide a spark for the Eagles' offense, and they made it interesting very quickly once he got out there. Now Doug Peterson will have to decide which quarterback will get the start against the Saints.
You got an interesting decision to make this week as to who your starting quarterback will be. Have you made it yet?
No.
What will go into the decision?
I'm going to look at a lot of things. Where we are as a team, obviously. I'm going to look and just go back and evaluate, the position and just, when I make my mind up, I'll know. But I'm not there yet.
They did get within reach. Obviously, it's the Packers, so Aaron Jones took care of that
also
nice and quickly. But
Jalen Hurts looked capable, and Jalen Reagor, the receiver, had a really nice special teams touchdown. Yeah. So that was like 2 good news. We drafted our first and second round picks. Actually played pretty well. I thought that was on a takeaway that nobody cares about. You have 2 guys that had moments.
If you look at the situation that they're in, it's really bleak because you're paying Carson Wentz so much money. And if you decide to go with Jalen Hurts next week and he plays well for the entire game, or at least capable for the entire game, after what you've seen from Carson Wentz this year, what do you do? And at this point, how do you go back to Carson Wentz? I mean, that was significant that Jalen went. It's not that Jalen went out there and blew the doors off and won the game, but he certainly looked capable, and he did provide there was an obvious difference to the offense once he was out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain combinations in life that are bad. Like, my car is really expensive and it's always broken down. That's bleak. My quarterback, we're tied to him for years at $35 million, and he stinks. That there's no sunlight. There, you can't see the horizon. Like, the Jets are bad, but Trevor Lawrence in April. The Jags are bad. Justin Fields, you can see the sunlight. This is total darkness. This is an eclipse. There is
because you can start Jalen Hurts, but if he ends up being good, then
it doesn't solve your issue.
You still have all this money tied up.
$35 million backup. It's bleak.
It is.
That's a perfect word. Philadelphia is bleak. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Mark Schlereth actually did. I listened to him. He did the Giants-Seahawks game. And I said this, is last year when the Dolphins beat New England, the initial reaction is, what a shocking upset. And then you wake up a few months later and you're like, not really. Miami this morning is better, and their trajectory last year, you were seeing it. And I'm like, I'm not saying the Giants beating the Seahawks with Colt McCoy is not an upset. It may not be the upset we think it is. If you watch that football game, and I did, Mark Schlereth is joining us, 3 Super Bowl rings and a 2-time Pro Bowl to Fox Sports. Listen, Seattle should have won. I get it. But I'm watching that defensive front for the Giants. I'm watching the Giants run game, and I'm like, Mark, football's about physical play, and the Giants you don't want to get in a phone booth with them. I think they may be the Dolphins of last year, where we're catching them on a trajectory that they may be the 4th best team in the NFC right now. Or am I not? You called it. What'd you see?
Yeah, it's interesting, Colin, because I did the Giants in week 4, and they lost to the Rams 17-9.
Yeah.
And I went to my crew after the game, and I talked about it on my podcast, and Stinking Truth. I was like, the Giants are going to win this division because they are so physical up front. But I will tell you where they have gotten so much better. A couple of things. One, Jason Garrett, from a play calling standpoint, you want to think about being committed to the run. There's a lot of people that say, "Hey, I'm committed to the run," but what do they end up doing? They end up getting away from it because they're getting 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards. They're not really committed to the run. They just want to develop a quarterback so they can get their next head coaching job. So Jason Garrett continues to call the run. They did nothing in that first half offensively. Guess what happened? They bludgeoned the Seahawks, who had the 3rd best run defense in football in the second half. That's an offensive coordinator that adheres to what the game plan is, right? He doesn't get spooked out of the game plan. So big kudos to Jason Garrett for staying with the plan. And then, 2, defensively, you can talk about Patrick Graham, their defensive coordinator. You can talk about that front and Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence and all the guys up front. But let me tell you, they are the most complex, the most disguised back-end defense that I have watched all year on film. When I broke down their defensive tape, it took me twice as long to break down their defensive tape as it has any other defense in football, because the things they show the quarterback, the confusion they create, they are so tied together. They have gotten so much better over the course of this season. What I saw early in weeks 2, 3, and 4 when I studied them compared to what I saw the last 3 weeks, amazing transformation. And I know Daniel Jones didn't play, but Daniel Jones has played exceptionally well here the last 4 weeks. He has cleaned up all the issues that he had. I called it red striping guys early. He's looking off safeties. He's throwing it to the other side of the football field, understands what he's got, where he wants to go with the ball. This is a much improved football team under Joe Judge.
So, it's interesting. I'm watching Kansas City and Denver last night, and memo, the Chiefs are good. I didn't take a lot from Kansas City. They don't play with a ton of urgency. I get it when you're that good. But what the story to me was, Sometimes, we know this, Mark, you make decisions in the NFL based on what's around you. A prime example, when Peyton Manning was in Indianapolis, the Houston Texans drafted Mario Williams, not Vince Young, not Reggie Bush, and they said, well, we have Peyton Manning in our division. We have to take the defensive end. And I look at Drew Lock, and my takeaway last night was, I got to face Mahomes twice a year, Derek Carr twice a year, and Justin Herbert. Doesn't Denver have to move off Drew Lock? Like, I don't see it. I don't get it physically. I don't get it.
Right.
They have to move off him, right?
Well, I think one, like I just talked about with Daniel Jones, where he was in weeks 2 and 3 and 4 compared to where he was going into week 13, dramatic improvement. Can Drew Lock make that type of improvement? Remember, 6 coordinators over the last 6 seasons, going all the way back to college. So he takes too many chances with the football. He is very raw. He played in a real spread offense at Missouri that really hasn't prepared him to play in the NFL. There's no question that he's got some talent, that he's got some moxie about him. Time and place, I'm kind of with you on the time and place aspect thing. Like, he throws his second touchdown to score 16 points, and he's running down the sideline, with his hand over his ear, like, where are you, Chiefs fans?
Oh, boy.
I mean, let's relax a little bit on that, Drew, all right? I mean, come on. You guys average 18 points a game, and you're coming off a game where, by the way, no quarterback played. But again, here's the deal. I was listening to you earlier about assets and draft picks, right? And I came from Washington, where I cut my teeth in the National Football League under Joe Gibbs. And Joe Gibbs had a philosophy. I'd rather trade a unknown commodity for a known commodity. I want a known commodity. I want to know what a guy can do. And by the way, the last time I checked, the draft's still a 50-50 crapshoot.
Yeah.
Half the guys can't play. Half the guys get into the NFL, and it's overwhelming to them. That's why on every team there's a college free agent that didn't get drafted that's
Right.
an awesome player, right? Like, how'd you miss this guy? Well, you missed him because you don't know when you get to the next level how a guy's going to respond to playing at the top. And there's a lot of guys, we talk about athleticism and stuff, but it really is from the neck up. Do you understand the game, and how quickly can you process information? Those are the guys that can play.
Finally, Belichick and the Patriots. I mean, it's hard to believe. If I said Cam Newton had 69 yards passing, you'd think he lost or narrowly won, and he won 45-0. And I'm watching that Chargers game, and I'm thinking, those Charger players, they know it's not on them, right? Like, if you ever been you had good coaches, so this may not be relatable to you, but have you ever been in a game when you were either on a team with a superior coach or an inferior coach, and you knew it was a mismatch?
Yeah, well, I've had some situations in the middle of my career in Washington where, we just weren't a very good team. I'll never forget going to Dallas, I think in '94, and just surveying. I think they had Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper, and they had Mark Tuinei and Nate Newton and Mark Stepnowski and Larry Allen and Eric Williams and Jay Novacek and Moose Johnston and Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman. I'm watching them warm up before our offense came out, and I'm like, damn, we don't have one guy that could start on this team. We're going to get our ass kicked, and we did, So, I've been there before, so I know what that feels like.
Yeah. Belichick kind of put on a coaching display yesterday, Mark Schlereth. Finally, when you look at the entire league yesterday, and I look at the Philadelphia situation, and Joy and I were talking about this, there are solvable problems around this league, or you can see light at the end of the tunnel. Jets can get Trevor Lawrence, Jags get Justin Fields. But if Jalen Hurts can play, you still pay $35 million for a backup. Is there a solution in Philadelphia to you?
Well, I think you need to go through some quarterback rehab, and what I mean by that is you haven't protected Carson Wentz all year. He's ended seasons in 2017 that he was having an MVP type of season. I believe it was 2017 with the ACL, and he's been hurt several different times, and you don't protect him. When you watch him play, his feet are all over the place. He never gets, even when he has time, he doesn't ever set his feet properly. So his mechanics are completely broken down, off target on a consistent basis. And I will tell you, it starts with protection, and then it comes down to him. The other thing that happens with teams is they are not threatened by this receiving core whatsoever. So when you watch the Philadelphia Eagles, like even when they're in a zone, those guys are playing flat foot reads. They're reading that quarterback through, they're reading the receiver through, or the quarterback through the receiver. They're not afraid of getting beat over the top. So it's super tight window stuff. Nobody's threatened by this offense, and Carson Wentz is a mess back there. So it starts with protection and rehabbing Carson Wentz, because you're right about they don't have a lot of options paying him $35 million a year.
Good stuff. Mark Schlereth, good talking to you, bud, from his home in Denver. Thanks, man.
You got it, buddy.
He called the Giants and the Seahawks game. It is, I like college football, but, 45-0 in an NFL game, when I have Joey Bosa, and I've got really good secondary, and I've got Justin Herbert, and I've got a tremendous wide receiving tight end core. That is just an eye-opener. That's just like, wow.
It's a disaster.
It is a disaster. Like, and again, it's like I don't want people to be fired, but for Anthony Lynn, that you can't bring that back because you lose the locker room. It's just like Greg Williams got fired, as Joey reported. You can't bring him back now. Like, I don't believe in firing during the season. Like this idea to fire Harbaugh or James Franklin. Settle down. These are winning coaches. I have this whole theory on COVID, is that outside of like Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, they are so formidable structurally and so loaded, they can over that. Same with Amazon or Apple or these companies. They're just they have such a market lead that they can overcome COVID. But if your company's 3 years old and you have a pandemic and you shut the doors, it's like restaurants in LA. The ones that have been around for 20 years, most of them will survive being shut down. But if you're in your third year and you really are just starting to make money and the government shuts you down, it's over. And so I am giving a lot of passes for COVID. Nope, I'm giving a lot of passes. But Anthony Lynn yesterday and Greg Williams, there are thresholds that you will lose the players in the locker room if you don't make a move eventually. Jets made it today. Chargers probably make it in a couple of weeks. Thoughts on that, plus the Chiefs again. We have a big Monday night game tonight. San Francisco, Buffalo. Buffalo's rolling. San Francisco isn't, but I like the Niners. Plus Colin right, Colin wrong. Top of next hour.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
Who cares about the last great podcast? iHeartRadio's talent scouts are on the hunt for the freshest, funniest, and most compelling voices out there, but we need your help. The next great podcast competition finalists are now set. We've sifted through thousands of incredible entries submitted on creative platform Pongle. From an investigation into high school basketball scandals.
Something's afoot in amateur basketball. How would something as human as sport escape the claws of racism and capitalism?
To a mother-daughter pair who love to tell outrageous dating stories.
That's more than I needed to know. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate you for being so candid. Okay.
Now we're giving 10 lucky hosts the chance to be crowned the next great podcast and win a show on iHeartRadio. They'll need your support. Listen to the next great podcast finalists now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Then, go to nextgreatpodcast.com to vote for your favorite to help us find the next great podcast.
You know exactly where you were when the Golden State Killer was arrested. You still pay for cable to get Lifetime. You're a moderator on the Zodiac Killer subreddit. You're basically a seasoned detective, and you're in search of a new challenge. Enter Solve, the hit podcast that puts you at the center of the investigation. Each week on Solve, you will untangle a case that has pushed detectives to their limits. Solve is like no other murder mystery podcast. You'll piece together evidence from interrogations, crime scenes, and witness testimony to track down killers hiding in plain sight. Your cases are waiting for you. New episodes of Solve are available now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. One crime, 4 suspects. Can you solve it?
It is a Monday, and we are busy today. It is great to have you in. Colin right, Colin wrong. Top of next hour. I want to thank Mark Schlereth for stopping in. He did a great job on the Giants and the Seahawks yesterday. Good for the Giants, really playing well. And, I was watching Kansas City last night. We forget this. Football teams are just made up, obviously, of just dudes. And human beings, we all are prone to good days, bad days, big emotion, being depressed. And everybody wants me, hey, Colin, you've been banging on the Steelers all year because they're undefeated but play down to their competition. There's a difference. There are things the Steelers can't do. Consistently run the ball. Kansas City's different. They can do everything. They just don't do it all the time. And that's a hard place to be in for an NFL team that's running away with a division. Is that when I watch Kansas City play, my only question with them is, will they get bored? I mean, when New England was doing this dynasty outside of the Randy Moss years, it was a lot of close wins. It was all close Super Bowls. They weren't blowing people out all the time. Kansas City's the Warriors with Durant. First year, they just smoke people. By year 2 and year 3, it's harder to get up. I remember Jordan in his heyday winning titles and losing to expansion Toronto. It is hard, not only when you're great, but when you're so gifted and things come so easy for you, it is different. The Steelers are winning. It's not easy. They can't run the football. They've had 2 major injuries to their linebacking core. They have a bunch of young wide receivers, and those relationships are growing. So Pittsburgh's winning, and they've earned it, but it hasn't been easy. There are things they can't do. And the thing they do great, which is, that front seven, now they have 2 major injuries they've got to overcome. Kansas City's different. I mean, when they lose a game now, we are shocked. We weren't, by the way, when New England lost games in the dynasty, we weren't shocked. But when the Warriors lost a playoff game with Durant, we were like, whoa! That's where we are with Kansas City. So that's why I see them differently than Pittsburgh. There's nothing they can't do. It is just a matter of, can they create in-house, and this is what Andy Reid's going to have to do. Urgency. This thing matters. You watched that thing last night, you never once in that game felt Kansas City was threatened. Nobody did. And that's, either did they. Either did the Chiefs. They didn't feel threatened. They were in a game, but this was, you walk into an octagon, and Conor McGregor, for most of his fights, knows he's a better fighter. He's got to get the right angle. He just got to get the angle on it. Kansas City was just kind of playing for the angle, the knockout punch. I mean, they had a Tyreek Hill touchdown that didn't count, another one taken away. This thing could have been over much earlier. We were talking about Philadelphia. I want to shift to Philadelphia's got a real dilemma. So everybody's like, Jalen Hurts played well. Okay, if he's the solution, it doesn't solve the problem. You do not want a $35 million backup. There are certain combinations in life that are just bad. If you're a director of a movie, and when it's all done, you go to the studio and go, yeah, it's long and boring. You're done. If it's boring, make it quick. If it's a little, little stodgy, a little clunky, make it quick. When you have an expensive quarterback and he's currently lousy, you are done in this league. You're done. That is like, I've got a car, it cost me a fortune, and it's always breaking down. How do you get out of it? You got a car payment. You still got to get to work tomorrow. Like, I don't see I look at bad teams in this league. I look at Cincinnati right now, and I think, God, Joe Burrow comes back. They'll go heavy on offensive line personnel. They're great. They'll be fine. Jets, Jags, I can see the sunlight. Man, we said earlier, this is bleak. There is no solution. I look at Philadelphia, and if Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins, you may have thought he was overpaid. We all did. He was never terrible. He had a ceiling. He wasn't terrible. Jimmy Garoppolo, who I like more than you, we felt for about 2 years, not anymore with the contract, but for 2 years we're like, ooh, that's a lot for Jimmy Garoppolo. It wasn't terrible. Wentz is expensive and terrible, and there's no way out. This league is predicated on 2 things. It really is. Your quarterback's talent and how expensive is he. And if he's super talented, you can have a little less talent around him. And if he's not expensive at all, Baker, Goff, and his rookie contract, then you get a lot of talent around him. When his talent now is debatable and he costs you a fortune, somebody made a movie, maybe Kevin Costner was in it. No way out. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer for Philadelphia. Colin right, Colin wrong next.
I'm Kate Berlant.
I'm Jacqueline Novak.
We're comedians, best friends, and consumerist hogs hemorrhaging cash in the wellness world.
That's why we made a podcast, Poog, with the Big Money Players Network and iHeartRadio.
Though we suffer from no ailments, we are looking to heal.
For us, salvation lies in the next product, practice, or potion.
This is our hobby.
This is our hell.
This is our naked desire for free products. This is Poog. That's P-O-O-G. Poog on the iHeartRadio app,
Apple Podcasts,
or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Jenny Garth and Tori Spelling, and we are doing a podcast. And it's called 9021 OMG. Can you believe it's been 30 years? 30 years since what? Since we started 9020. Oh, man. Since I graced you with my friendship. That means you're old. She's a year older, by the way. Listen to 9021 OMG on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, Earthlings. It's Kesha. I'm so excited to be bringing you my new podcast, Kesha and the Creepies. You may know me from my party jams like We Are Who We Are and TikTok, but it's my curiosity for the unexplainable, the mystical, the magical that drives these conversations with exciting pop culture guests and experts in the occult and all things creepy. Listen and follow Kesha and the Creepies on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Next Great Podcast competition finalists are now set. We've sifted through thousands of incredible entries submitted on the creative platform Tongle. Now we're giving 10 lucky hosts the chance to impress. But to be crowned the Next Great Podcast and win a show on iHeartRadio, they'll need your support. Listen to the Next Great Podcast finalists now on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you listen to podcasts. Then go to nextgreatpodcast.com to vote for your favorite to help us find the next great podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Oh, here we go. It's hour 2 of the Monday, flying by. This is the Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, right here on FS1. It's great to be here. You know, it's interesting. Joy Taylor's joining me. That, COVID has been difficult for all the leagues. I thought the NBA handled it, and hockey, brilliantly. Baseball had some early stumbles, but I thought had a great postseason. College football has predictably, it's just college campuses with young men making poor decisions on mask wearing is not built for COVID, right? Even though the numbers will tell you that's one of the safer groups of people, it's just not great. But the NFL's gotten an interesting break. As COVID jams us into our house, and the NBA season hasn't started yet, and baseball's over, and college football isn't as dynamic as most years, they're staggering this schedule, and frankly, this looks like the best week of the year. I get Sunday's great, I get 2 games tonight, I get the Cowboys-Ravens tomorrow, and then I get Thursday, I get a Rams-New England game. I don't mean to be selfish, but as a sportscaster, I would take this every year. I always feel like on a Sunday, Joy, I can't watch. I mean, I do. I sit and watch with my TVs. I try to watch it, and I pick 1 or 2 games a week, usually Jags games. I'm not going to watch it. But like this year, when you stagger it, I can watch every single game to some level. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, and these reschedules have not even been planned. Like, they didn't even plan for these games to be independent. They've had to adjust to COVID situations. And yeah, I mean, for the fan, it's great. What else is going on Tuesday night? You've binged everything already.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect.
It really is. All right, we call it Colin right, Colin wrong. I make mistakes during the week. I have strong opinions. They go either way. And here we go on a Monday.
Where Colin was right.
It's been a roller coaster, ridiculous year for Blazing 5, and this was a great week. Almost went 4-0 yesterday. Went 3-1. Had the Browns to cover. Had the Rams to win. Had New England to beat the Chargers. And, oh, by the way, I thought I had a backdoor cover on Philadelphia until Aaron Jones went Aaron Jones. Have the Niners tonight. I'm 30-32-2 on the year. Let's keep it going.
Where Colin was wrong.
I didn't know if Matt LaFleur was the answer in Green Bay. He'd been a coordinator for 1 year. My sources told me he sometimes struggled to own the room. Tennessee's offense got better when he left, but you know what? Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur are 22-6 together. I thought last year he was very good on the play sheet, but didn't adjust at half. This year, Green Bay's a better, not great, but a better second-half team. Aaron is happy. He's crazy productive. The eye rolls are gone. He seems fully engaged. And it works. I mean, now, they are sometimes Davante Adams dominant, but I've got to be honest with you, I'm not so sure he's not the first or second best skill player in the league. So, we always criticize coaches when, why don't you go to the number one guy? Well, they go to the number one guy a lot. They go to Aaron Jones and Davante Adams a lot, and that's what you have to do when you have great players. So I think Matt LaFleur has surprised me and been better than expected.
Where Colin was right?
Well, I said the Belichick-Anthony Lynn game yesterday had the makings of the biggest coaching mismatch of the year in the NFL. It's nothing against Anthony Lynn, but this was embarrassing. It was a New England toyed with the Chargers staff, special teams coach, defensive coaches, offensive coordinator, 45-0 with Justin Herbert and those weapons. By the way, I've been on this for a month. I've said, listen, I know Anthony. I like him. The players play hard for him. But there are losses and there are moments when you get one of these all-time potential great quarterbacks, you got to get the coach right. No more coordinators. You got to go spend some money on a head coach. By the way, the last two times Belichick faced Anthony Lynn, 45-0 New England and 41-28, and that game was 41-14 at one point as a coaching mismatch.
Where Colin was wrong.
I've always had this thing where if your owner's an A, your GM's an A, your coach is an A, and your quarterback's an A, or they're all close, you're a Super Bowl contender every year. I've been so high on Philadelphia for 3 years. They're bad at everything. I mean, they're a mess right now. They have some good defensive personnel, but it's a mess. The Carson Wentz thing is a mess. Alshon Jeffries is shot and overpaid. For some reason, nobody's ever healthy. Their first and second round picks had a good... They showed signs yesterday, but don't look as dynamic as you'd want a first or a second round kind of franchise to be. I gotta own it. Philadelphia right now is bleak. Doug Peterson. I don't know if that's the right coach. Listen, Belichick loses coordinators. Andy Reid loses them every 2 years. It's not man overboard. Doug Peterson lost one guy he really connected with, Frank Reich, and they can't get it right since he left. It may be the wrong head coach.
Where Colin was right?
We called it when the Giants were 1-7. We said it's the best 1-7 team ever. We said this is the Miami Dolphins, guys. Keep your eye on the New York Giants. And we called this when they were 1-7. 5 of their 7 losses have been one possession. They now lead their division, and I don't see anybody that can really threaten them, to be honest with you. Seattle's offensive line was overmatched. This is a franchise. This is Miami of last year. They got into a big hole. Remember, Miami was like 0-7 or 0-8 last year. But when you were watching them, you were seeing a team that was losing competitive, baby steps. Then at the end of the year, Miami started winning narrowly. This is what the Giants are doing. Blowout early, losses are close, wins are close. This team's not that far away from some blowout W's next year. So we were right on Joe Judge.
Where Colin was wrong.
Kyler Murray is a Hail Mary pass. One Hail Mary pass from a 5-game losing streak. And I always said with Kyler, even if he doesn't run, he throws the prettiest ball in the league. He can be a pocket quarterback. What it looks like is running is really essential to his game. He only has one win this year where he didn't rush for 60 yards. He really does, and that's okay because he can do it, but Kyler needs the running element to work. I think he throws such a beautiful, and he made a couple of great throws yesterday, one in the end zone to DeAndre Hopkins, which was a complete needle thread. But he needs to run. He can be kind of inconsistent, and he still makes mistakes. Yesterday, 21-39, not great.
Where Colin was right?
I said Westbrook and Harden would never work. And people say, oh, they're close friends. And I'm like, I'm going to speak for guys on this. Guys don't care. If we're great friends and you're screwing my career, we're not great friends. I'm not going to speak for Will. I'm going to speak for guys. Listen, they're hard to play with. And they're both ball-centric. And Daryl Morey and a lot of people were like, oh, they're friends, they get along. It's like, the games don't work. And as Chris Broussard taught me a long time ago, your game's your game. Your game's your game. Ben Simmons can't shoot. That's his game. So you got to figure out a way to work around Ben Simmons. And Westbrook is athletic, and he's fun, and he's amazing, and he's talented, and nobody plays harder, and he has a lot of redeemable qualities. I wouldn't build my franchise around him, but if you're being intellectually dishonest to say Westbrook's not a first-ballot Hall of Famer, and he's not fun, and there's not assets. Nobody plays harder. But he and Harden were never going to work. It was a dumb argument.
Where Colin was wrong.
The Belichick coaching tree appears to be blooming. It ain't a redwood. It ain't Andy Reid. but I think I tried to uproot the tree a little fast. Joe Judge appears to be great. Brian Flores is really good. And by the way, he gets a little credit for Mike Vrabel. I don't know how much, but he gets some. But there are three coaches. Vrabel had a bad first half yesterday, but Vrabel can coach. Brian Flores is a coaching rock star. And Joe Judge, I mean, I'm sorry, man. When you go 0-5 and your team plays hard every play, you can lose Dave Wannstedt always says you can lose games, don't lose a locker room. Joe Judge went 0-5, and some of those losses were pathetic. He never lost that locker room for a second. So the Belichick coaching tree it's still blooming.
Where Colin was right?
Last week, BYU fans and college football media, how can you put BYU behind 2-loss Georgia? BYU's undefeated. Yeah, BYU lost to something called Coastal Carolina. Their mascot are the Chanticleers. I don't know what a Chanticleer is. Listen, BYU would get rolled by any of the top 4 or 5 SEC teams. College football is decided in early February on National Letter of Intent Day. It's nothing against Coastal Carolina, but they ran for 280 yards and ran all over BYU, physically pushed them around. Can we stop with this nonsense argument from college football media? How can a 2-loss, 3-loss SEC team be rated over an undefeated blank team? Because they got more good players. Just watch National Letter of Intent Day in early February. It usually happens right before or right after the Super Bowl. And look at all the good high school players. They're all going south, or most of them, right? So, I'm over hearing that dumb argument. You're smarter than the argument if you're making the argument that a 2-loss Georgia team, who, by the way, has lost to Bama and Florida. You watch Bama and Florida this year? Great coaches, great rosters, and really good football teams. It's called the what are they called? The Chanticleers. And that is a singing group in vaudeville back in the 30s. What is a Chanticleer?
I think it is a singing group, actually. A musical ensemble?
It's a rooster.
It's a rooster?
It might also be a singing group, but it's a rooster. That's their logo.
That's a weird, are roosters big in the Carolinas? Or maybe they're big. I don't know.
I don't know.
If they are, I still wouldn't.
I think roosters are just
annoying.
They're pretty, though.
Are they?
Do you even know which Carolina they're in?
No, I don't, honestly. What Carolina are they in?
They're in South Carolina.
Only 2.
Okay, I'm being honest.
I don't know.
I don't know, but you know.
Dustin
Johnston, BYU was willing to take a game. I'd give you credit if you lost narrowly to Bama or LSU or Oklahoma.
I thought of you when I saw the end of that game. I was like, this is ready-made for Colin.
All right. Trent Dilfer's around the corner, Mike Vick 2 on a Monday.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
Who cares about the last great podcast? iHeartRadio's talent scouts are on the hunt for the freshest, funniest, and most compelling voices out there, but we need your help. The next great podcast competition finalists are now set. We've sifted through thousands of incredible entries submitted on creative platform Pongle. From an investigation into high school basketball scandals.
Something's afoot in amateur basketball. How would something as human as sport escape the claws of racism and capitalism?
To a mother-daughter pair who love to tell outrageous dating stories.
That's more than I needed to know. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate you for being so candid. Okay.
Now we're giving 10 lucky hosts the chance to be crowned the next great podcast and win a show on iHeartRadio. They'll need your support. Listen to the next great podcast finalists now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Then go to nextgreatpodcast.com to vote for your favorite to help us find the next great podcast.
In the summer and autumn of 2020, the city of Portland, Oregon became the center of a vast media blitz. Thousands of viral videos showing marching federal agents and police officers, tear gas, black-clad anarchists and fires went viral all over the internet. What didn't go viral was the truth, because the story of Portland's Black Lives Matter movement and of the Portland protests of 2020 is so much stranger than I think the mainstream media would ever be willing to cover. I was there, and more importantly, the people that I talked to for my new show, Uprising, A Guide from Portland, were there. Through their experiences, you'll learn the truth, both about Portland and about what's coming for the rest of the United States in the next few years. Listen to Uprising, a guide from Portland on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Tomorrow, it's a special edition of the NFL on Fox as Zeke and the Cowboys take on the Ravens. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, also available on NFL Network and streaming on Prime Video.
Well, the Cowboys, we all know, were a mess, and then they had a bye, and then they came out of the bye, and much like the Patriots are going to do next week, and the Cowboys got it right. They lost to Pittsburgh close, they beat Minnesota, so it looks like Mike McCarthy needed that 2 weeks of practice. And so Dallas now looks like a tough out. So this, to me, what's the Fox bet line? This is a go-either-way game for me. This feels like a go-either-way game for me. And it didn't 4 or 5 weeks ago. What is the line right now today? I think Dallas has a fighter's chance tonight. I'll say that. I did not think that 4 weeks ago. But it's amazing. Tom Brady gets a bye this week. So can they find kind of their identity during the bye? When you get in the middle of the season, you get an extra 4 or 5 days rest, and then you get 4 or 5 isolated practices to work on the identity. You can change your team. What's the line tonight?
8.5. Or wait, tomorrow night it's 8.5.
Tomorrow's 8.5. I would take Dallas. I think Dallas is a very good bet at 8.5. Trent Dilfer is now joining us. 15 years in the NFL, a Pro Bowl and a Super Bowl. The Bad News Lipscomb Academy. He's the head football coach. Lost 35-28 in the state championship, so that is no good. Hopefully he's in a good mood today for us. Well, that's the first time I've talked to you as a losing coach in a long time. So, hey, Belichick's lost a couple Super Bowls, right? Happens.
It hurts, brother. It hurts, but I'm super proud of our boys. We didn't coach our best game, but our boys are fantastic. It's been quite a ride the last couple of years, and we're very optimistic about the future.
So I said I don't like firing coaches mid-season. But there are thresholds that you can lose the locker room. I think Greg Williams of the Jets loses a locker room if you don't fire him. I don't know what you do with Anthony Lynn now, but I do believe players are smart enough to go, we're not 45-0 bad to New England. We got whooped. In those situations, have you ever been a player on a team that you just knew your coach was so superior or inferior, it wasn't about the Jimmies and the Joes at some point?
Yeah, I felt that way when we were rolling in Tampa, 98, 99 with Tony Dungy. We were just so well coached. Again, the Super Bowl year with Baltimore. There were times with Mike Holmgren where you just felt like you were superiorly coached than the team you were playing. You would watch them on film just like, they don't have any idea what they're getting ready to do. This was one of Belichick's better coaching performances. And I look at a few things. Their ability to create an identity now offensively with Cam Newton as their quarterback, to not panic when it wasn't pretty. There were some really ugly games there with Cam as the quarterback, with Stidham as the quarterback. It just didn't look right, but they've stuck to their plan to be a physical downhill run team, a little bit of an action team, creativity with trick plays, quarterback runs. Defensively, they've been pretty darn good all year long, and then special teams. It's kind of a passing statement in the NFL. I think in the high school game, the college game, people make a bigger deal out of special teams as truly a third of the game. In the NFL, it might be more than a third of the game sometimes, because a lot of times it reveals your identity as a football team. It reveals what you invest in the most in. It reveals how creative your staff is at trying to find a way to win a game that might be close or might be a tough one on the road. Their ability to create an identity of physicality in the run game, stopping the run, and then being dominant on special teams. I mean, dominant on special teams shows that they're really turning over every page they possibly can to find ways of winning games. And they made this game laughable mainly because of special teams.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's I'm just going to lay it out there. Great first half, spotty second half, but do you look at Baker Mayfield a little differently this morning?
Well, we said this a while back, and I hate being the guy that says, hey, I told you so, but, with Baker it was pretty simple. They have the most snaps under center of any team in the NFL this year. Baker is most efficient under center. We've been saying this for weeks, and I think the staff is starting to realize his DNA, and you've been on this as well. He's not a great athlete. He's not, I think everybody had this picture of him as Oklahoma, that he was this Johnny Manziel type quarterback, that he was best when he was being athletic and moving around and a playmaker, when really when you study Baker, he's best on rhythm. He's best within structure. He's best in the play action game where you cut the field in half. He's actually pretty darn good. He has great eyes. He's very precise with the ball. He's got a large throw catalog. And that's what they've done. They discovered his DNA, and they built an offense around Nick Chubb, running the football downhill, and then a really cool action game to go with it. And then they trusted him yesterday. They knew Tennessee wasn't going to allow a lot of first-half run opportunities, so they trusted him in a very creative action game to lead with the pass, but not lead with the pass from four wide receivers in a spread set, taking the ball out of the gun. They did it under center, flash faking the back, half rolls, full rolls, misdirection, throwbacks. They did a lot of this stuff that they've discovered he does well. If they can stick with this formula, Baker can be a really, really successful quarterback in this league. I just think this is as much coaching and developing young players we've seen in quite a while with the quarterback.
So we knew going into the league, I remember Pro Football Focus had Seattle's D-line rated bottom 5 and O-line bottom 5. Well, it does appear with some acquisitions, Jamal Adams, Carlos Dunlap, they have solved the pass rush issue. They have a formidable pass rush, which we all know will help the secondary to some level. But then I watched that Giants game yesterday, and I'm like, man, it is hard to win a Super Bowl, Trent, when your quarterback is off platform and running. And I watched that Giant team, and I'm like, Giants are just pushing them around the field. Seattle's O-line can't do anything. And I thought to myself, is Seattle's O-line enough of a liability to keep them out of big games? The Super Bowl, a conference championship.
Yeah, I saw two things going on yesterday in that game. There's two really distinct stories going on. Number one, the Seahawks are not a Super Bowl team. I still think they're a really good football team, and I never bet against Russell Wilson. And they will fix some of these things, but they don't have the physicality on the offensive line to finish this race. It's just too frenetic. It puts too much burden on playmaking. And what you saw yesterday was Seahawks didn't make some plays they typically make. They dropped some big passes. Russell actually missed a few. He forced a few. Just put such a burden on Russell and his skill guys to make up for their lack of physicality that you can't see that being sustained throughout a playoff run. They're a very good team. They have one of the best players in the world in Russell Wilson, but that lack of physicality up front is going to cost them. And then the second story going on is Joe Judge and what he's doing with the Giants. And again, going back, basically, I can just take all those comments I made about Bill Belichick and apply them to Joe Judge. The physicality. They have an identity. They're very physical defensively. Offensively, they stick to the game plan. They have an identity. It's very simple, and I don't think it's Super Bowl caliber down the road. They're going to have to evolve, but it's right for this team and then special teams. Here's a little secret thing you always got to look for as you're studying teams. Watch how teams cover kicks. Not just return kicks, not how they play on special teams overall, but how they cover kicks. It's really a way of identifying a team's physicality. Watch the Giants cover punts and cover kickoffs. They are relentless. They are physical. They are fast. They're dominating at it. And what it means is that Joe Judge has gotten this team. Remember, these first 4 weeks of the season was preseason. These guys didn't have a preseason. So we got to measure these teams from week 5 on. They have they have 5 wins since week 5. They're one of the more physical teams in football. They've had some signature wins. They've gotten themselves in the playoff mix, and they've done it through finding an identity of physicality, mental toughness, physical toughness. It's a great foundation to lay for the New York Giants, and you can build a lot of sizzle on top of it in years to come.
So the Rams-Cardinals was a game, if you watched it, I did, you never felt the Rams were threatened. And Arizona, meanwhile, is a Hail Mary pass away from a 5-game losing streak. I want to talk Kyler. My feeling was when I watched him early is what a baseball player, what a beautiful throw. He can win from the pocket. But increasingly, when you take the run out due to an injury, he can't. He's a little inconsistent. Having coached quarterbacks forever, can we take him to a different level as a thrower, or is the reality with Kyler? He's got to run a little bit, and maybe a bit to win.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a criticism. It's the same reason I don't criticize Lamar Jackson, because he has to run a little bit. These great athletes, it's how they've grown up playing the game. Their identities wrapped up in running the ball as much as just throwing the ball. We go to these camps over the country, and they'll give you their rushing stats the same time they give you their passing stats. It's who they think they are. And I think Kyler, a lot of what gives him juice is when he's dominating in the run game. When he is creating in the passing game. I think for the Cardinals, and this is easier said than done, especially for a coach who just lost a game, didn't call his best game, you got to be very intentional with the plays you call. You can't fall into a rhythm of calling every traditional play when you have a playmaker like that. You got to make sure you're constantly tapping in to his persona and calling plays so he can be magical, calling plays so he can be involved in the run game, calling unique plays to keep the defense off balance. You also be very intentional about creating a run threat with your tailback so the defense starts sucking in on the runner so that your quarterback can be a runner. I think Kingsbury has a challenge each week how he calls the game because he has to call it to Kyler's skill set and make sure that he's giving him the juice all the time.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, so you lose a big game. It's not the end of the world. Let me talk you off the cliff a little bit. So now, how much off season do you get? Like, you get a couple weeks here. What do you do? What do you do with your life now?
We're back to work doing season reviews and scheme reviews and coaches meetings, but I will give myself a chance. We'll get out to our place in Tahoe soon, and I'll get a little bit of a breather over Christmas with my family, and then be right back out to work.
Yeah, I called your AD. I recommended you not be fired yet. A couple more games. We'll see where it goes.
It's tough, man. The skies are gray. The food doesn't taste very good after you lose. It's rough.
I get it. Good seeing you, bud.
Thanks, brother.
Casper Sleep, 1,000 to 1,500 performing cooling systems when you sleep. Perforations, a cooling system, Casper.com. The code is heard, 10% off. Cozy bedrooms in the cold time of the year. Joy Taylor with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Well, the Rams are back in control of the NFC West with a 38-28 win over the Cardinals.
Mostly played really well.
Discussing.
Yeah.
Yes. Jared Goff took better care of the football.
He did.
No turnovers for the first time since week 7.
Yeah, it's amazing when you really... I mean, it's funny about football. You'd be like... because he obviously had a horrible turnover game, and all week they probably worked on ball security, and then what do you know? Like Baker Mayfield, by the way, and Daniel Jones were turnover machines. Sometimes you just have to remind players.
Take care of the ball.
And you think to yourself, well, it's obvious, take care of the ball, but it's amazing what coaching can do. So Goff yesterday, you could see the way he held the ball security was great.
Well, also, I mean, we talk about this all the time. Now, obviously, not all turnovers are created equal. Like, you do want to air it out a little bit. You don't want to play conservative just because you're terrified of turning the ball over. But you also can't have 4 turnover games. Like, that's absurd. Like, you're not going to win that way.
Yeah.
No defense is that good. You put your defense in a terrible position, and you're losing possessions. Like, you need those. The NFL is very competitive. It's the best in the world. On the other side, Kyler Murray struggled in the first half. He completed 3 of 12 passes for 73 yards. He was also held to 15 total rushing yards, which tied his season low. You and Trent were just discussing this. Like, this is a part of his game to be able to run, and sometimes you just need to lean into it.
By the way, Kyle Shanahan has had Sean McVay's number. McVay's had the Arizona Cardinals number. This is one of the... we said this Friday. The Niners are a bad matchup for the Rams on the OD line. This is not a great matchup because, first of all, the secondary for the Rams just keeps getting better every year. Aaron Donald creates pressure they can't overcome. The Rams the personnel match, and plus Jalen Ramsey, you can put him on D-Hop. The Rams match up better with this team than any team in their division. By the way, Arizona last several years has matched up well with San Francisco because Kyler could get away from their rush. So this division is just a matchup. It's weird how a 4th place team matches up often great with a 1st place team.
The Rams also improved to 33-0 under McVay when they're leading at halftime.
That's an amazing number.
And to your point, the Rams are undefeated against the Cardinals under McVay.
Yeah,
7-0.
7-0 now? Yeah.
Yes. So, the Rams now hold the tiebreaker over the Seahawks for first place in the NFC West at 8-4. The Seahawks are also 8-4, but as I mentioned, they have the Rams have the tiebreaker. And the Cardinals at 6-6, and the 49ers at 5-6.
And I'll tell you,
tonight.
And the 49ers, Joy, they're all healthy now outside of their tight end. So they got their running backs, their wide receivers healthy, and Richard Sherman is back. So
I don't know what to think of
so
the
if the
49ers.
if the Niners win tonight, this is their season tonight.
Yes.
So this is the season for the That's why I picked them tonight. Buffalo is in. They'll make the playoffs. They do too many things well. But this is the season for the Niners tonight. And the last time we said that, it was against the Rams, and they won. So I like the Niners tonight, even though they've been displaced. And they're Practicing on a high school field in Arizona.
Interesting team. Yes, like what they've had to overcome this year to still be in the playoff discussion. It's similar to Tomlin last year. It's really impressive. All the injuries, not having no quarterback, and to still be in the playoff conversation right now is really remarkable. So the Dolphins improved to 8-4 with a 19-7 win over the Bengals, but
let's talk about that.
This was not an enjoyable game for me as a Dolphins fan. The story was brutal. It was the fighting that led to 5 ejections between the two teams, and it's pretty difficult to get ejected in an NFL game. Like, you have to do something very deliberate and obvious. Everyone knows what you have to do to get ejected in an NFL game. It's not college where you accidentally get a guy running full speed in the wrong way and you're ejected from the game, which, by the way, is the worst rule in sports. It is infuriating.
There is an ejection in college. There was one this weekend, an ejection in college football for if it looks like it hurt too much, you're out of here. College football's ejection rule is terrible.
It's awful. And like, I know we're completely sidebarring here, but like, I get that they're trying to protect
totally get it.
The kids. But can we get a warning? Can we get a warning first? That feels appropriate, right? Like a warning since you're running full speed. It's the worst rule. The worst rule. So the worst fight, or the worst that came out of the fight, which broke out with a big penalty from a dirty hit on the Dolphins' punt returner. Yeah. Brian Flores got involved in the brawl, and he spoke after the game about why he got so heated.
I've got to do a better job of keeping up my poise. Look, I'm going to stick up for my players. They're going to stick up for each other. Without getting penalties, without hurting the team. But we got to do a better job of keeping our poise, as a team. Look, these are like my kids. So the people in this organization, they're very important to me. I'm going to try to protect, everyone here.
Brian Flores wanted all the smoke.
He was not in a good mood.
No, and listen, I like this for this particular game. I don't think this is going to be a habit or anything. You don't want to lose control, like he said. Like, you want to keep your composure. This game was completely out of control. It was hideous. Penalties all over the place. Dolphins had 8 penalties for 54 yards. Bengals had 6 penalties for 62 yards.
Listen, the league does a really good, considering there's a regulated level of violence in this sport.
Yes.
I'm always shocked more of this doesn't happen. We get about one of these a year. They almost always include the Bengals. I'm not blaming anybody.
Well,
but it's amazing that this is a game of intimidation, and the fact that we don't have more of these is kind of remarkable. It just went sideways really fast.
It did. I will say, though, the refs in the NFL do a really good job of letting a little bit of animosity be released before they start throwing penalties.
Yes,
they let it go for a little bit, separate everyone, let everyone say what they need to say. If things start to get out of hand, then they'll throw a penalty. But the refs do a good job of, like, look, there's a lot of violence and emotion going on here. Like, don't be so quick to just throw a penalty because guys are fighting.
Hey, listen, half your coaches played 75% played football. So the bottom line is they have that instinctive.
Yeah, like it's go time.
Let's go time. All that smoke time.
Yeah, but the Dolphins should have played a better game overall. They converted 1/3 down the entire game. It was an ugly game for them. Finally, great fight this weekend. Earl Spence Jr. proved he's the same fighter he was before the accident nearly 14 months ago. He retained his welterweight title belt with a unanimous decision over Danny Garcia. The win kept Spence's undefeated career intact, 27-0 record. Garcia falls to 36-3 with the loss. It was a great fight. I felt like Garcia was always in it, but he was nowhere near as aggressive as he needed to be if he was going to win over the judges against Earl Spence Jr. I mean, Earl had the ability to create this kind of this feel that he's throwing so many more punches than he actually is. Like, if you look at the punch count at the end of the fight, like, they were pretty equal, but it did not feel that way. Garcia's a great counterpuncher, but you can't do that in a fight like this. So you have to go after him. He just wasn't aggressive enough and was just really outmatched. But
you're our boxing reporter.
Am I?
You love your.
I do love boxing.
Oh no, it's an event. You're a Miami girl. Miami's an event town. I'm a Vegas guy. Vegas is an event town. We used to have Daredevils.
Exactly. Well, there's just nothing like fight night. There just isn't. Like, it's really, if you're a sports fan,
the best.
It should be a bucket list thing to do.
And the only thing my wife doesn't like sport. Only thing she likes once a year let's go to a fight. UFC, boxing, let's go to a fight.
You're gonna enjoy it. It's one of those places where nothing can lie either. Like if the momentum in the fight changes, you feel it in the whole arena. Everyone stands up when something big happens. It's a really fun night. But this was overall a really great fight, so it was good for the fans, and it could lead to a potential fight with Terrence Crawford next. He was at the fight, but he fought Kell Brook, beat him in TKO in the 4th round on November 14th. So everyone's kind of looking for this to be the next fight. Bob Arum said that Spence and Manny Pacquiao are the only options for Crawford's next fight, so we'll see.
Good stuff, Joy, with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Live
Mike
News.
Vick's around the corner.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Let the whole world sing along. Let the whole world sing along. Let the whole world sing along. Let the whole world sing along.
Hey there, it's Leanne Rhymes. You know, these days it's pretty easy to feel way too overwhelmed and disconnected, not only from each other but ourselves. My new podcast, Holy Human, focuses on living our best, fullest lives by expanding into our most complete and whole selves. I'd love you to join me as I sit down with people who I've found to be some of the world's most inspiring and enlightening motivators, healers, and wise souls. Together, we'll make more sense of this crazy existence we all share, ourselves and each other. Listen and follow Holy Human with me, Leanne Rhymes, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Are you dealing with best life burnout, constantly striving for more, and quite frankly, over it? Maybe you just want more joy, peace, and laughter in your life now. Well then let's go. Welcome to your new favorite podcast, Hot Happy Mess, hosted by me, your girl, Zuri Hall. Join us each week as we discuss dating, relationships, self-care, career wins and losses, and so much more. Oh, and moments like this. You know what? Sometimes the grass is greener on the other side because it's fake.
Well, that's why I mentioned muting. There are some people who will check you.
Oh, we got some petty people in our lives. I was crying by the water because I was happy.
And I do love a clear.
Not liquor. Wine will be spilled, laughs will be had, and a few tears might be shed. Messes will be made, but we're gonna find our magic in the middle of them. Don't miss new episodes every Monday. Find Hot Happy Mess on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
He played for 13 years, Pro Bowler for 4, drafted number 1 overall, and he had the great opportunity, did Michael Vick, to play with a Mike Tomlin, going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, play with an Andy Reid, where you know you got a coaching edge, and Mike now is joining us live. So go back to I'm watching Belichick yesterday against the entire Charger staff, and I'm like, this is a pro staff and a college staff. When you were with Andy or Mike, did you ever really believe, Mike, going into a game or during it, oh yeah, our coaching staff is we're not just winning, our coaching staff is dominating another coaching staff?
Yeah, I think the majority of my career with Andy, I always felt that way. I felt like he always had the answers, and you know, when your coach feels that way and he exuberates that confidence, you can feel it throughout the week. Like, and with us in Philly, it started on Wednesday. Like, come Wednesday, by 5 o'clock, I knew exactly what needed to be done. I was on the same page with Andy. I understood the game plan. I felt good about it, and it was because he made me feel good about it, and he helped me understand everything that needed to happen. And that's what great coaches do. Mike Tomlin as well on the defensive side of the ball. You know, I think he's one of the greatest because the way he prepared and have his guys prepared. They can answer any question come game time, you know, before the game starts on Sunday or Monday. And it just makes everybody's job easier. And you know, coaching really matters, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's no question that football is the sport where in the NBA it's about the individual star, baseball it's analytics, football is still a coaching sport. So Baker Mayfield yesterday, did it change? He finally beat a really good team on the road. He was very good. Does it change the way you look at Baker today?
It shows me that Baker has it in him. And I think for Baker, it comes a point in time where, you know, you look around the locker room, you look around in practice, and you look at the game film, and you say, okay, we're good on defense. We have great receivers. We can run the football. if I just do my job and you simplify it and doing your job, then I make the team that much better.
Right.
And I think that's what Baker is starting to realize. If I just do my job, I don't have to do everybody's job. You can only control what you can control. It makes you that much better. For him, it's just staying within the framework of the system of the offense and running it efficiently and letting guys do their job. And it looked like that's what they did yesterday and for the past couple weeks. And his job is starting to look easier and easier. So, as Baker Mayfield continues to show us, that he has a good grip on things around him, the better I feel about his situation, but he's still a work in progress.
You interviewed Kyler Murray this week. Michael and I are on Fox NFL Kickoff every Sunday morning, have been for years, and you interviewed Kyler. He's one Hail Mary pass away from being on a 5-game losing streak. He's not running as much, therefore it's more pocket, and he's struggling. You've been there. You've been a guy that runs. Do you kind of feel his pain? Where is he at right now, and where are you at with Kyler Murray this morning?
I think, to his credit, man, a shoulder injury, AC joint injury, it's probably one of the worst injuries to have. And I've been able to play hurt, throughout my career on numerous occasions. But the shoulder, in 2002, it was a different injury. It bothers you at night. It bothers you when you wake up in the morning. It takes a while to get going. And the last thing you want is to get hit on it. Then you got to go to practice and you got to continue to throw. And it just never gets better. So, mentally in your mind, you lose your arm strength. You lose everything that exuberates the confidence that you should have in playing the quarterback position. And it's been a big drop-off. On top of that, teams are paying attention to what he does best and taking that away.
Yeah.
It's evident it's a copycat league. Coaches are watching, and it's only gonna get harder. It's not gonna get any easier. So, when the going gets tough, you gotta get going, man. You gotta figure out a way to make sure that you do your job accordingly, and that's where Kyle is at right now.
So Carson Wentz may get benched for Jalen Hurts. It's a tough decision because you just think, well, Jalen played better, but now you're dealing with the star quarterback and what's in his head. If you were Doug Peterson, because Jalen Hurts did offer a spark. I mean, he wasn't great, but he offered a spark. We can't debate that. Would you replace Carson Wentz and just say, I got to see what I got here. This is a mess. What would you do?
If I was Doug, I'd take a couple of days to just think about the decision and probably make this decision on Wednesday morning based on what he's seen on film. Obviously, you can't go away from Carson. Contractually, you're tied up right there. But Jalen does provide a spark, and you did draft him in the second round, which means you've seen some in him. Now, whether you just drafted this guy to put a little pressure indirectly on Carson Wentz, that's their business. But if that's the case, then this is the time to put him out there because the team need a spark, not just the offense, the defense too. At some point, you can eventually lose the locker room. So even if like Mike Tomlin quoted, if you get a little JV-ish, you play Carson in the first half and then you play Jaden in the second half, depending on how things are going, and that's just what it is. But give this team a spark, give them a chance. They still, human beings with emotions. Let them go out there and let it all hang out. Give them a reason to believe.
So I watched Drew Lock last night and I figured out who he is. He's Jay Cutler. Great arm. But he doesn't play with a ton of urgency. Little loose for my taste. Just kind of roll. By the way, do you see a little bit of that?
I seen it, and I was evaluating Drew, and I liked the conditions last night on the road in Kansas City, a divisional opponent. And it's like, okay, Drew, show me what you're gonna do. And he didn't show much. Like I said, a little wiry, a lot of errant throws, didn't look comfortable. And I would love to watch this team a little more to see what type of system they're running and what they're doing. But it was balls flying all over the place. And this was a good test for him. He's in his second year. And just like we've been evaluating everybody in their second year, we evaluate harder. This is the time to show John Elway in this franchise that you are the guy. And I don't think he's shown that. So, a little disappointed in Drew Lock last night. We'll give him some more games, but it can't give him too much time.
Yeah, because their running game was pretty good, and Denver's defense kept the game close. So he got some breaks last night, and he didn't come through, and I think that's part of it. Michael Vick, Fox NFL Kickoff on Sunday. I love having you on, buddy. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
It is. So I was watching him last night, and I'm like, he's Jay Cutler, who drove me nuts. Is that they can move, but Jay Cutler had a great arm. Great arm. And Drew's got an arm. He can really sling it. And this sounds weird, but like urgency. This drives me nuts in people in general. Like when we do a show, on the show, be present and be urgent. We have a show, it's 3 hours, it's live. You got to be in the... I used to have a producer that would go for smokes. Like during the show. Be like, dude, we're on the air, live. We can't go for smokes during the breaks. And it's like, Drew plays like Jay. Like I know he cares, kinda. Like with Brady, for all his faults, he plays with... Breeze is like this too. Breeze plays with incredible urgency. Every snap, Drew is totally into it. Russell Wilson plays with this. And it's hard to explain. Russell Wilson is completely in the moment and totally urgent. There's no off plays. Cutler and Drew are just kind of, hey, you basketball, man. I'll get it next time. Gonna sling this thing. It's like, right now, last in completion percentage in the league, last in passer rate. And this is not a Denver team lacking talent. Melvin Gordon's really good. He got a running game last night. Fant, Jerry Jeudy, the kid out of Penn State. Like this is not a team lacking. This is not the Jets. Like, their O-line's not great, but they got a tight end. They got a back. He got defensive help last night. He just needs... I don't know if you can coach that up.
You want to feel like everyone is as frustrated as you are as a fan when you lose.
You never felt that with Jay Cutler.
No.
Jay would go home and, we lost. I want you to be pissed. It's gotta drive you nuts. That's what I know.
Yeah, you have to be as mad as we are as fans.
Exactly. I demand that. Starting in 2021, Discovery Plus, a new streaming service, U.S. only. Some of your favorite brands, plus exclusive originals. U.S. only. Discovery Plus. Hour 3 next.
You know exactly where you were when the Golden State Killer was arrested. You're a moderator on the Zodiac Killer subreddit. You're in search of a new challenge. Enter Solve, the hit podcast that puts you at the center of the investigation. Solve is like no other murder mystery podcast. You'll piece together evidence to track down killers hiding in plain sight. Your cases are waiting for you. New episodes of Solve are available now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. One crime, 4 suspects. Can you solve it?
Are you ready for best life minus the burnout? I'm Zuri Hall from NBC's Access Hollywood, and my new podcast, Hot Happy Mess, is all about the most important VIP, you. You're the star of your life, so own it. Join us each Monday as we discuss relationships, self-care, career, and much more. Our podcast is for mindful, ambitious, diverse millennial women who are ready for more happiness, laughter, peace, and purpose now. Listen to Hot Happy Mess every week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We are back and black on the Black Effect Network. Hey y'all, it's Tamika D. Mallory and my song The General.
That's me.
And Street Politicians is the podcast for the culture. We will be breaking down social and civil rights issues, pop culture, and politics on our podcast every Wednesday. We will have special guests as well with local activists to join the show discussing political issues going on in their community. Listen to Street Politicians on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right.
Hi, this is Bowen Yang here. I'm the host of the official companion podcast for the HBO Max series, Search Party. On Search Party, the podcast, I'll be sitting down with Search Party's writers and actors to delve deeper into the disturbingly dark comedy. We'll go behind the scenes with its stars and chat favorite moments and themes with special guest celebrity fans. Season 4 of Search Party is coming soon to HBO Max. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe and listen to Search Party, the podcast, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Are you dealing with best life burnout, constantly striving for more, and quite frankly, over it? Maybe you just want more joy, peace, and laughter in your life now. Well, then let's go. Welcome to your new favorite podcast, Hot Happy Mess, hosted by me, your girl, Zuri Hall. Join us each week as we discuss dating, relationships, self-care, career wins and losses, and so much more. Oh, and moments like this. You know what? Sometimes the grass is greener on the other side because it's fake.
Well, that's why I mentioned muting. There are some people who will check you.
Oh, we got some petty people in our lives. I was crying my beer because I was happy.
And I do love a clear.
Clear. This is not liquor, sis. Wine will be spilled, laughs will be had, and a few tears might be shed. Messes will be made, but we're gonna find our magic in the middle of them. Don't miss new episodes every Monday. Find Hot Happy Mess on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
At the right time, the right story can work magic. And right now, we could all use a boost. I'm actor Anupam Kher, and on my new podcast, Anupam Cares, I will share stories with you from my life, from growing up in the Himalayan foothills to acting in over 500 Bollywood films. I will also be bringing you stories of untold heroes from around the world to lift our spirits and remind us that anything can happen. Find Anupam Cares on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades last 2 times longer than other blades. Winter's lousy until, we hit summer, right? So use them. Only available at Walmart. Joy Taylor with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
The Saints became the first team to clinch a playoff berth this weekend after beating the Falcons 21-16.
What do you make of Taysom Hill?
I make of Taysom Hill that Sean Payton is an excellent coach.
He certainly is.
No, I think Taysom Hill stepped up. I had a lot of questions about whether he was going to be capable of doing this, and I was really nervous that it was all going to derail, and everyone, myself included, was kind of surprised to find out that he was going to be starting in place of Jameis Winston, and he has gone out there and done everything that they've asked of him.
He's very unique.
He's very unique, but he's winning games and can't take anything away from him. I don't think it's the same situation as it was with Teddy Bridgewater last year.
No, Teddy's a more natural thrower.
Yes, but I can't be critical of him. This is what, if he's playing at his highest level, this is what you would expect from him, and that's what he's doing.
By the way, if Jalen Hurts succeeds, there are those who would argue Jalen Hurts is a little bit like Hill. Not a natural great thrower, but can throw it, but can do so many things with his legs. He's such a great athlete that you just kind of win uniquely.
I think we're kind of still
pocket quarterback.
Yeah, we're still adjusting out of that. Not that being a traditional pocket quarterback is a bad thing, but the game has just changed so much.
Yes.
And uniquely, if you're the Saints, who are a great team with a great culture, with a good defense, great coach, great weapons, you don't need an over-the-top performance from your quarterback in order to win. I mean, you're seeing this with the Cleveland Browns. Now, obviously, I'm not comparing them to the Saints. Obviously, the Saints have much more foundation and culture of winning.
But if you go top-bottom roster in the NFL, Saints could be number 1. It's about as good a roster as the league has.
Yeah, so Taysom, all Taysom had to do was come in and not mess it up, and he's done much more than that.
Need to be a great version of Taysom Hill.
Yes, and that's what he's done.
Yeah.
He's had another strong performance. He had the first 2 touchdown passes of his career, and he rushed for 83 yards. Drew Brees is improving. He threw at practice last week, so there's a chance he could be available next week against the Eagles.
They have a good pass rush. I'd let Taysom play. Philly's got a good pass rush. Don't get him in the crosshairs with that.
I feel like I'm with you. You just because you, like I said, Taysom's done everything you've asked of him. Eagles have been playing terribly. You don't know what you're going to get from them week to week, but they do have a good pass rush. So
plan as long as you can.
Yeah, just give Drew another week. They are obviously the top of their division at 10-2. Packers are 9-3. Rams 8-4, and Giants 5-7. The top of the NFC divisions right now. Seahawks, Bucks, and Vikings are in the wild card slots right now, and obviously the Cardinals, 49ers, Bears, and Lions are in the hunt, but it feels like a few of those teams are quite a ways out of it.
Niners got to win tonight.
Yes. So Aaron Rodgers set another personal milestone yesterday. The Packers' 30-16 win over the Eagles. He threw 3 touchdowns to reach 400 in his career. He became the fastest quarterback ever to reach that milestone, 400 career passing touchdowns, and the 7th to ever hit that milestone.
When he's getting time to throw, it's beautiful. When he doesn't have pressure, he had some throws yesterday. He's just sitting around there, and it's just pretty.
I love this. Giving him the 400 passing touchdown. He's having an incredible season, and it's not quiet, but I feel like there's just 1% of an anxiety about the Packers, and it's not at all because of Aaron Rodgers.
No.
It's just I did not think that they did enough this offseason to fix the issues that they had in the postseason last year. But the way that Aaron Rodgers is playing, they might just be able to overcome that. I mean, their offense, they can flip the field really just as easily as the Chiefs can. Like they are remarkable. They can score like that. So I think they may be able to make up for the lack of physicality that feels like they have.
Somebody said this weekend, the reason they play so well when they're ahead is because the other team has to pass, and their pass defense is fine. When Green Bay trails and the other team goes to a physical running game, they don't defend the run well.
Right.
That's why Green Bay plays so well with a lead. Their weakness is we trail and the other team's just pounding the ball on us, and they lost Blake Martinez, who's a tackle machine, and they're not a great run defense. They're just not. That's not what they do. That's not what they do well.
Well, the Fox bet odds for MVP right now, Patrick Mahomes is leading the way at -500. Aaron Rodgers is second best odds at +450.
Who leads?
Patrick Mahomes.
I think I'd give it to Aaron. I think I would give it to Aaron.
Too.
I'd give it to Aaron. I'd go Aaron 1, Mahomes 2.
And Mahomes is having an amazing season as well. I don't know, it's really tough. Russell Wilson and Ben Roethlisberger are tied with the third best odds. Finally, okay, so
I don't understand this.
I don't understand this either. I've given it a lot of thought since this news dropped yesterday.
I don't get it.
And I still don't get it. So Floyd Mayweather is getting ready to step back into the ring.
Okay.
I actually thought this was fake. And then I kept seeing it on all of the news sites, and I was like, okay, I guess this is for real. This is a real thing. He announced he'll be fighting Logan Paul in an exhibition match on February 20th.
So that's not the guy who beat up Nate Robinson.
Correct. But I didn't realize that for a few minutes either. Actually, it was like a while.
That fight,
I was very confused.
That fight I'd watch.
Yes, right? So when I saw this news, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, this is still ridiculous. But that was my initial thought, that it was him. No, that's actually Jake Paul. That's his brother.
So
now, Logan Paul has fought before. He lost to another YouTuber, KSI.
Oh, hell, I don't want to watch this. That's stupid. So I'm going to watch the greatest fighter pound for pound ever against the guy that lost to a YouTuber.
The greatest defensive fighter in the history of boxing.
To a guy that lost to a YouTuber.
Undefeated record.
I'm not watching it.
Logan Paul's participated in one professional fight, which he lost by split decision.
Now, come on. At least the other Paul won his fight. He's 2-0. This does nothing for me.
Hey, listen, I'm going to be clear. I'm going to watch this. But this is... And when I think about, like, overall what it really means, because it's obviously... For me, my first thought was, what could he gain? What could Mayweather possibly gain? Right?
A check.
Obviously, he's going to get a check.
Yeah, big one.
But and this was my question with McGregor as well. Although now, having watched the McGregor fight, I feel differently because that was actually a legitimately competitive fight. We all know Mayweather's going to win this convincingly, right? But it is still boxing. So you're stepping foot in a ring for a check, obviously. And because it's boxing, there's a, let's call it 1% chance that you take a wrong step and this YouTube guy accidentally knocks you out.
I don't think it'll happen.
Of course I don't think it's going to happen. I do not think it's going to happen. I think Mayweather is going to destroy, and I'm putting that lightly, I really feel like this should almost be illegal.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think he's going to destroy him. Like, it could be bad. But there is that 1% chance. So you're literally, if you're Mayweather, you're putting your legacy on the line to fight a YouTuber?
So I think if he loses, people will think it's fixed. That's why he's doing it.
I mean, there's 0% chance he's gonna allow that to happen.
This fight will be so bad.
He'd ruin his undefeated record.
It's one thing if you were a YouTube star and you'd fought a couple times and won both, I'd be intrigued. If you're fighting other YouTubers and losing, I'm out. I refuse to watch. Even if Fox sponsors it, I will protest. It's not watchable.
I will watch because I have to find out what's going to happen. Right. But here's the thing about boxing. Unless you're a purist, the fights are about the story.
That's right.
So people are going to watch this.
Enjoy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Daryl Johnston, decade in the NFL, 3 rings. He is doing today. He's calling today's Washington Steelers game on Fox. So let's bring him in live. He's kind enough to take 10 minutes for us. All right, so I've been kind of getting a lot of hate mail from Steeler fans because I've said, listen, I know the record, but they don't run the ball. Running the ball is really important to keep it away from a Mahomes or keep it away, from an offense that can be electric that you're going to face in the playoffs. When you look at Pittsburgh, is it that they can't run the ball or they're not committed to it? What do you see?
Okay, before I start there, just one name
on your last segment, Apollo Creed. Always remember that, right? Anything can happen. Anything can happen. You know what? I'm kind of on board with you on this one, Colin. I went back and watched them play Tennessee Baltimore the first time around back in the middle of October. And one of the things that we've talked to a lot of the teams about this year is complementary football. At that point, I thought Pittsburgh was the best complementary team I've seen in the NFL this season. Now, a lot of that comes from what happened last year with Ben Roethlisberger out of the lineup. The defense was taking the ball away. Special teams was creating field position. The offense last year was able to do that 4-minute offense and run that clock out for him. So I think there's a little bit of carryover there from what happened last season. And now with Ben back, the offense has picked up. I think they've moved away from that running game. It's something that's always been a part of Pittsburgh's offense, but it's not there this year. But the big question for me in our game today is you always want to be playing your best football going into the month of December. And Pittsburgh did not play their best football last time out against Baltimore, and they've got a tough stretch here with 3 games in 12 days. We'll find out how well they're going to play.
So I want to keep it on the NFC East. We're talking about Washington, the Giants, and Dallas. Let's start with Washington. I actually think they have a puncher's chance today, and it's interesting. We had no preseason, so you give these coaches, new system with Ron Rivera. They've had some chaos at quarterback. Before I get to the Giants, who clearly are on board with Joe Judge. When you watch Washington on film, do you feel like they're getting better? Do you feel like the players are buying in? Do you feel like week to week? Do you think they could do a Miami, where by the beginning of next year, you're like, it's a real football team?
Absolutely. And I think, that 6-game stretch that Ron Rivera talked about when he made the switch to Kyle Allen and moved off of Dwayne Haskins, he thought there was an opportunity there to get back into the NFC East. He was very disappointed that they went 3-3 during that stretch. He really felt that they should be on top of the NFC East right now, but he does see the progress. He does see the team getting better, but he wants them to be able to do that from the start of the game. And that's the one area that he's really asking his team to get better at, is start the games faster. We want to walk in, we want to take control of the game and be able to move through the 60 minutes and complete control of that game. Now, that's a huge step when you're talking about a first-year head coach, all the transition that happened within the organization, no traditional offseason. So it's been a gradual progression, but today is the game, and this is something that Alex Smith is excited about. He really wants to see how good they are and how far they have progressed, because the Steelers are going to be a great measuring stick for him, but I think that you're going to be surprised today. I think this is going to be a game that's a little bit closer than a lot of people think.
I do. So when the Giants were 1-7, I'll pat myself on the back. I said, okay, what they are is Miami last year. Like, I see a really good team that's competitive. They just, Saquon Barkley's out. They don't have enough firepower. They're losing close. And all of a sudden now, they go from losing ugly early to losing close early to now winning close, which means next year you hope you start to win a few big. What's the secret sauce? When you watch the Giants, a team you know well, what has been the sauce for you? What is the ingredient why players are buying into Joe Judge?
Just having the opportunity to visit with him earlier this season, he's got a presence. He had a plan. He laid it out to the guys. He's very open. He's very transparent about what he wants to do. And learning to win is something that I think a lot of people outside of sports don't understand. When there's transition like they had, you've got to relearn how to win. It doesn't matter what you've done at other stops or other places. That group coming together as a whole has to learn how to win as a team. So it's the exact process that you talked about. Losing ugly, losing close, now winning close. When did they take that next step where they can win going away? It was a huge win going out to Seattle yesterday and performing like that. They've built it on the defense. The defense has always been good. The offensive line has gotten better and better and better all season long. So this is the team that you have to watch. And it was really ironic because coming into the season in the NFC East, everybody thought, well, this is Philadelphia's division. I mean, they're the only one who hasn't had a coaching change, who doesn't have a lot of transition. The other 3 teams are really going to struggle the way the setup has been done with the offseason program. And when we got through with Washington and New York early, our group decided, you know what, those 2 teams, even with all the change and the challenges that they've had in the offseason, those 2 teams could be the 2 that are fighting out at the end of the year, because those 2 teams have already bought into what their head coaches are talking about. Yep. You could see them all falling in line, and they've showed that all the way through the season. So I think the NFC East comes down to the Giants and the Redskins, and it's going to be hard because those 2 games, when I talked about the 6 games that Ron Rivera was talking about to try and get back in, it was the 2 losses to the Giants where he elected to go for 2 instead of kicking it and going to overtime, and then they lost by 3 points in the other one. So 4 points there, gives the Giants the 2 victories over the Washington football team. So, that will be the separator as we get towards the end of the year.
And finally, it's interesting. Tampa Bay's on a bye week, and so my guess is Arians and Brady, this is a real opportunity during a bye week to kind of get your identity right. Dallas was a mess. They have a bye week, and they come out, and Moose, different team. Played Pittsburgh close, beat Minnesota. So you tell me, I mean, it was dramatic. Dallas was one team and then another. What happens during, because I always thought you just give guys time off. What happens during a bye week that allowed Dallas, who plays tomorrow, to really kind of, the buy-in was non-apparent to apparent off a bye week?
Well, I really think it was personnel decisions that were made. Dontari Poe was let go. Everson Griffin was traded. Those were two guys who were brought in to be kind of the bedrock of that defensive line, and they were great names, and they've had great careers, but they were not playing to the potential that the Dallas Cowboys expected them to play at. So you made a move right there that got everybody's attention to realize, hey, we're going in a different direction. This is the way we're going to be doing business moving forward. If you're not on board, you're not going to be a part of this. So I think that sent a huge message, and I just think you've seen that defense play a lot better. There's a lot more hustle.
Yes.
That was the big thing to me. There was just some fundamental things, not coachable things, just fundamental things that are the responsibility of the guys on the team that weren't being done. There was a lot of talk about it, but there was no action being on the field. Now I think you're starting to see that reaction, and the guys are playing a little bit better. It's a little bit sounder. They're starting to understand Mike Nolan's system, but I think that was the biggest change, was what happened on the defensive side of the ball, and we'll see if they can keep it going. It's going to be tough against Lamar Jackson. You got Alden Smith, Randy Gregory, DeMarcus Lawrence. They're going to have a heck of a game protecting those edges, because this is a unique style of running the football, and they're very good at it against virtually every opponent they face.
That Super Bowl ring you're wearing, is it got superpowers? Look at that thing. You got 3 of those. Now, which one is that, by the way?
This is and I shouldn't do this because it's from against Pittsburgh. I usually don't wear the ones into the home stadiums as the team, but this is the one that really only fits my knuckles, because I think I have some arthritis in there now. So I committed the big sin of wearing one of the rings to the
sorry to unveil that live on
television. I know I'm in trouble. I'm not going to get out of here in one piece.
Moose, I always appreciate you stopping by our show. Thanks.
Yeah, good to catch up. Take care.
All right. Best for last. 3-word NFL game. Can you sum up every NFL game in 3 words? We think you can.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Get ready to laugh and learn. I'm Nick Smith.
I am Flamin' Road. I am he, she, we. He cash a check, she make the money, we spend it.
Laugh and Learn is a weekly podcast bringing you the latest headlines.
The infighting within the LGBT community is ridiculous. Baby, let me tell you about that rainbow in the front. Check the back of it. Potholes, thunderstorms, gunshots, all that.
Keeping you politically informed.
Because that's what we do. We wait to the presidency, but we don't think about all the steps that it takes to get to the presidency, which is congressmen and senators and judges and people put in place to think like us and look like us.
Mixed in with a little pop culture.
They ain't went to no Ice Cube. Understand, Ice Cube ain't even got that much juice. He ain't got that much power. This ain't Bad Boys in the Hood. He ain't Dope Boy.
You never know what you're gonna hear.
Don't I look like Beyonce Mama? Don't I look like Beyonce Mama?
Subscribe and listen to Laugh and Learn on the iHeartRadio app or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
My name is Lowell Berlanti, and I created the podcast Prodigy to find the answer to a very complicated question. Can genius be created? I asked academics, researchers, scientists, and the prodigies themselves to gain a better understanding of intelligence, skill acquisition, and expert performance. So disregard all simple explanations, because complex questions require complex answers. Listen to Prodigy every Thursday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Coming in 2021, U.S. only, Discovery Plus. All the shows you love from your favorite brands like Food Network, Discovery Channel, and more. Plus exclusive originals that you can't see anywhere else. Show has flown by today. Appreciate everybody stopping by. We call it the 3-word game. When you have to really succinctly describe what happened in each game, you can. Best for last. Here we go.
Lions and Bears.
A final straw. Bears blew a 10-point lead in the 4th. 6-game losing streak. Matt Nagy now 13-15, and you can't blame Mitch Trubisky. He played pretty well. Had a quarterback rating of 108.3. Nagy came in as well-liked, nice guy, not a ton of experience, and that's a new way to lose. It's not sitting well in Chicago.
Saints at Falcons.
Peyton's place cemented. Sean Payton is the Belichick of offense. 8-0 without Breeze over the last 2 years. Nobody's going to make Taysom Hill look this effective. I'm sorry. 9th straight win. Taysom Hill's 27 to 37. And I don't even think Sean Payton would say he's a great thrower. He's a little bit mechanical. So this is just a really smart offensive coach. I mean, this is why Jameis Winston took only $1 million. He said, I want to go to quarterback school. This is where you go to learn how to be a quarterback. The fact they've gone 8-0 without Drew Brees is really a testament to so much about what the Saints do right.
Browns at Titans.
Baker's best half. 20 of 25, 4 TDs in the first half alone. Also a shout-out, Browns defense held Derrick Henry down. Now, some of that was because the Titans fell so far behind they couldn't run. But Baker played with a lot of poise, good tempo. I mean, he had open receivers, but he hit them. Okay, in recent weeks, he hadn't. So Baker made the throw. That's a great throw right there. His best half is an NFL. It's the highest scoring half, by the way, in Brown's franchise. In the history of the Cleveland. Jim Brown, Otto Graham, it's the highest scoring half ever.
Raiders at Jets.
Inventing new ways. Jets led 13 seconds left. Greg Williams, who was fired today, called an all-out blitz in a 3rd and 10, gave up a 46-yarder. Derek Carr to Henry Ruggs, who, by the way, Ruggs is just a streak. I mean, he just runs. He's the fastest guy on the Raiders. I mean, give credit to, Derek Carr hit it. It's open, but no safety help. It's kind of the defense Belichick would not run. This would be the last thing Belichick would do.
Jaguars and Vikings.
Don't blame Cousins. Kirk overcame a 10-point deficit in the 3rd quarter. 2nd straight week, he's done that. Hey, he has thrown 3 touchdown passes in each of the last 3 games. Longest streak of his career. So Minnesota's got 7 new defensive players, a lot of them young. This is not a Kirk Cousins thing. He's got a ceiling, but Kirk's not the issue why they're struggling to get past Jacksonville.
Bengals and Dolphins.
To be determined. Tua was okay, hasn't thrown a pick yet, so he makes good decisions. We knew he was accurate. Yesterday he threw for 296 yards. They asked him to make more throws yesterday. We're still kind of figuring out what he is. Not as dynamic as some young other quarterbacks, but, again, does Flores, and this may be what Flores believes, my defense and special teams are going to win games. Just give me Drew Brees. Just give me a guy who's accurate, smart, doesn't throw picks and is poised. I don't need to have Mahomes. For the record, that's won a lot of games in this league. That wins a lot of games. May not win a lot of Super Bowls, wins a lot of games.
Colts and Texans.
Same old South. It's a goofy division. Deshaun Watson had the ball 2-yard line, $1:28 to go, fumbled. The best team doesn't win this division. Just the grease fire at the lowest temperature. There's so many games blown in this division. I thought I liked Tennessee until the first half. I don't like anybody in this division. Really, there are halves I like them. There are weeks I like them.
Rams and Cardinals.
Murray missing magic. 3rd straight loss. Season low in first downs. Arizona never had the ball in this game. This may have been the most lopsided time of possession game this year. The Rams had the ball 39 minutes. Cardinals had it 21. So, if you turn this, I watched the whole game, but if you turn it on occasionally, Arizona never had the ball. DeAndre made a couple of decent throws, but didn't have a lot of first downs, was inconsistent, didn't really play very well in the first half. Now, some of this is, I'll say it again, Rams have the best secondary in the NFL. Their young guys are excellent. Jalen Ramsey's got all the smoke, so this is a really, really good defense, and Kyler Murray, in fairness, is still a young quarterback. It's not a defense, especially when you trail. To play this defense when you got to throw and you're trailing, it's no good for anybody.
Giants at Seahawks.
A giant statement. Held the Seahawks to 17 points. First Seattle home loss of the year. When you win with a backup against Russell Wilson, I think the Giants are really good. So they went from losing big to losing close to now winning close. To me, they're Saquon Barkley and a receiver away from being a handful. Really, I think it's an upset. I don't think it's as giant an upset as everybody thinks. I think Giants are pretty good.
Patriots at Chargers.
Herbert deserves better. Listen, the Chargers special teams had the wrong number of players on the field 5 separate times. I mean, come on. You got to get the players on the field right. It just looked like a disorganized mess. And let's not mess around with, coordinators. Let's go get a head coach. Let's spend some money on this thing. Everybody in LA is winning. USC's unbeaten. Lakers are winning. Dodgers are winning. Rams are winning. You're already invisible in this town. Go spend money on Urban Meyer, Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly, Belichick. Make an offer. Get this thing right.
Eagles at Packers.
Man, that hurts. Jalen Hurts. He's probably going to get the start this week. Listen, even if he's the solution, it doesn't solve the issue, which is you're going to pay your backup quarterback, Carson Wentz, $35 million. I don't know what to do. He looked pretty good. Jalen Hurts stepped into a couple of sacks. A couple times he hadn't had enough snaps. The bullets are flying. It's live football, but he made a nice throw there. He moves. That's a nice throw. Can't get worse, so why not? I mean, seriously. You draft him in the second round, not an 8th round pick. Might as well play him. I mean, this year's in the toilet, so play him. See what you got.
Broncos at Chiefs. Broncos.
Yeah, winning in sleep. Chiefs have not won by more than 6 points in any of their last 4 games. I didn't think it was close last night, to be honest with you. The Tyreek Hill play, I'd never seen that before. It's weird. They're really good. My 3-word game was going to be Chiefs are good. They do everything. They don't play with a ton of urgency, and I think all you fans know that. That's what they don't do. They're the Warriors with Kevin Durant. It almost looks too easy, and that becomes a mental block. By the way, Mark Schlereth had that Giants-Seattle game, which was an upset. I don't think it was as big as upset as we think. And when you have a defensive line controlling an offensive line, it makes inferior teams really competitive. And I just watched the mock draft the other day, and they had the Giants taking another defensive lineman with one of their picks, and I'm like, okay, that's just getting the San Francisco feel, where people can't block you. You got 4 or 5 people, they just can't. Leonard Williams, by the way, is playing great. Much better Giant than he was a Jet. Dexter Lawrence is great. They got him in the OBJ trade. Mark Schlereth was talking about why the Giants have become so difficult to deal with.
The Giants are going to win this division because they are so physical up front. But I will tell you where they have gotten so much better. Jason Garrett continues to call the run. They did nothing in that first half offensively. Guess what happened? They bludgeoned the Seahawks, who had the 3rd best run defense in football in the second half. That's an offensive coordinator that adheres to what the game plan is, right? They are the most complex, the most disguised back-end defense that I have watched all year on film. This is a much improved football team under Joe Judge.
So, for the record, he said it's the most disguised defensive team. Well, that's what they say about Belichick. That Belichick, when the ball is snapped, the defense changes. And that's why young quarterbacks struggle. I mean, it's amazing to watch Belichick. On Friday in Blazing 5, we just said, Belichick, young quarterback, I'll take Bill. I mean, that's literally, there are like 2 or 3 rules in the NFL. Andy Reid off a bye, always take Andy Reid off a bye. Belichick against the young quarterback, and Sean Payton can win with a backup quarterback. Those are the 3 rules in coaching. Andy off a bye, Bill against the kid, and Peyton with a backup quarterback. Like, it's been established. Rush Limbaugh is conservative, Rachel Maddow's liberal. There's no reason to argue. It's been established. We know that. I don't understand people that argue stuff that you know. I am so mad that this person takes that position. Well, that's what they do. That's who they are. Well, you just figured it out? Sports Illustrated covers sports. Not like hunting and fishing and boating. That's why you buy the magazine and complain. It's not Car and Track. No, that magazine's called Car and Track. When people, we have stuff that in the NFL, there's no reason to argue it anymore. Take Andy Reid off a bye. He's going to win almost all of them. By the way, rectech.com, built by grillers for grillers. Go big, stainless steel build this holiday season. You can turn the grill on from your phone. You can cook from your phone. For John and Joy and everybody here, thanks for joining us on a Monday. Be safe. It's The Herd.
The next great podcast competition finalists are now set. We've sifted through thousands of incredible entries submitted on the creative platform Tongle. Now we're giving 10 lucky hosts the chance to impress. But to be crowned the next great podcast and win a show on iHeartRadio, they'll need your support. Listen to the next great podcast finalists now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Then go to nextgreatpodcast.com to vote for your favorite to help us find the next great podcast.
Get ready to laugh and learn. I'm Nick Smith.
I am Flamin' Road. I am he, she, we. He cash a check, she make the money, we spend it.
Laugh and Learn is a weekly podcast bringing you the latest headlines, keeping you politically informed, mixed in with a little pop culture. You never know what you're going to hear. Subscribe and listen to Laugh and Learn on the iHeartRadio app or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.